Hey all, I'm Mark Vega, and this is the Run Long After 60 podcast. If you're new here, welcome. I'm really glad you found us. And if this isn't your first rodeo, well, you know how this goes. This is episode 30, and I'm excited about it because it's a little bit personal. For the first half, I'm sitting down with my running coach, Henry Howard. Henry is a 5-time 100-mile finisher. He's run plenty of distances over the years. He's the deputy media director of the entire American Legion, and he's the writer and voice behind Run Spirited, a positive newsletter and blog dedicated to the running life. He has coached me and believed in me, sometimes when the data probably said he shouldn't. And I'm grateful for every bit of it. And then for the second half of this episode, I'm, talking directly into the microphone and turning it on me. So we're talking about my training, the races I've done, and importantly, the ones I haven't finished, and what it all looks like when you're building something real later in life. Now, if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, if you like the vibe, great. You found the right spot. The best way for you to support this podcast is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's a video first kind of content push here, and I really would love for you to subscribe to the channel and check out the other episodes. So many amazing humans. I started the podcast once I realized, even after 60, there are people doing really hard things, running long distances, conquering crazy efforts. And I literally found myself standing at an aid station in service to others, but thinking, Mark, I don't think you're done. And I was right. He was right. We were right. All of me were right. I wasn't done. So I really stepped heavy into the ultra universe after that point in time. I'd run a bunch of 50s but 50Ks rather. And now I'm really hooked and really dedicated to it because of the people who I've met, and not just the people on the podcast, though every one of them blowing my mind. But just to give you a little context here, I'm recording this just a couple of days after I DNF'd the Leona Divide 100-mile race. It was my first start line at a 100-mile distance. Ultimately, I covered 33 miles, but I timed out at 9 hours, and I didn't make it to the Agua Dulce aid station. I got pulled from the course. Too slow. Well, that stings. But my fitness is high. And in a couple of weeks, I'm headed to Cocodona to pace a 44-mile section near the end of the race for Paul James Johnson, a previous guest on this podcast who invited me to pace him while we were recording his episode. How cool is that? He had a sense that, if I'm going to attempt 200-mile races, he invited me to come along and see what the 200-mile universe is like. What's the vibe? How do you do it? How do you pull it off? What kind of team is required? So grateful for Paul and can't wait to get to Cocodona. And yeah, I'm excited. But one more thing, longtime listeners will notice that I'm not out on a run for this introduction. Up to this point in time, I finish an episode interview usually and then jump out on the streets and start running and record the interview running. Well, I'm not doing that today. I'm not out on a run. I'm looking right into the camera. Both of my feet are recovering from a bout of extensor tendinitis after the race. So we're doing things a little differently today. What does that mean? Well, essentially, I tied my shoes too tight. And when I'm bombing down hills and it was a little hot, your feet swell. That's what we do, right, when we run. But I didn't realize that I'd had them my laces were so tight. It was like tourniquets on both my feet. But it didn't really emerge until a couple of days after the race. And so now I'm taking care of things, going barefoot for a handful of days and getting ready for Cocodona. So today's introduction is just a little different. But we're here. We're moving forward. And we are absolutely not done yet. So, are you ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. I think it's time. It's time for Henry Howard. Let's go, let's go, let's go. For several years now, my running coach has been Henry Howard. He is the deputy media director of all of the American Legion. He's the writer and the voice behind Run Spirited, just a newsletter and a blog. And Henry himself is an athlete, 5 times 100 miler, and lots of other distances over time. He's coached me and believed in me probably when the data didn't suggest that he should be doing that. And I think I'm really grateful for that part of him. He's all around just a good human being. Henry, welcome to the show.
Great to see you and talk with you again, Mark. I'm honored to be here and happy to talk about our coaching relationship, your epic races, and wherever else this goes.
Okay, excellent. I'm so happy you're here. First off, just grounding, where are you located in the world? Like, where are you based out of?
Yeah, so I am in very, very flat Indianapolis, Indiana. Lived in Indiana since 2004. And fortunately, with my job, I get to travel a lot. So I've been able to run in quite a number of amazing places.
Okay. I remember early on back in the Wayback Machine when I first started following you, I'm like, this guy's so fast and it's freezing cold wherever you were at. You're freezing cold and he's so fast. And I thought, maybe when you're cold, you want to run faster so you can be done sooner with the run. I can't tell, but I still feel that every time I see you and you're like, you have icicles off your eyebrows. I'm like, God, that's dedication. Henry, you're a major media operation at the American Legion. You started a podcast a couple of years ago that you organize and run and produce. Really, you're a storyteller with your own Run Spirited writings, which is inspiring. You do profiles of race directors and people just out there doing hard things and with a purpose. And I had the opportunity to watch you finish a couple of 100-mile races, and you invited me to be a crew member, and I was really honored to do so, and I loved it. But that's a dual life when you're doing media, so much media operations for a pretty big organization, and at the same time you're an athlete and a coach. So how did you decide to squeeze it all together or do all those things kind of at the same time?
Yeah, well, actually, you weren't just there watching me finish those races. I mean, and that's kind of how I'm going to answer that question too. Is it's a full life, but I am able to do these things because of great teams. I have when I've done hundreds, I've always had at least one other person with me. Usually, it's multiple people who are crewing and pacing and doing their best to get me to my goal. And you and others have been along for that journey, and I really appreciate that. That's the team for the running adventures, the really long ones. And I've got a great team at the American Legion. We are, for those who don't know, we are the nation's largest veteran service organization, 1.4 million veterans. And we do all the things. We have a monthly magazine, the podcast you mentioned, the website, the newsletters, the socials, all the things. And it's having that team that understands the mission, just like a team would for a 100-miler in getting across the finish line. And it's a great team. They understand the mission that we have in supporting our nation's veterans and advocating for them. And it's an honor to be part of that.
I realize, or just to say it out loud, yeah, I'm a veteran, and so I really only became aware of you because of that status. And I was volunteering and participated as a member of the American Legion and providing service as we do. And people who get out of the service and they join the American Legion or some other organization, people are always, it's all volunteer based because we're still in a mode, I think, to be of service, really. When you cover so many stories in the American Legion as part of the Tango Alpha Lima podcast or other stories related to the American Legion magazine and all the things that you do. You cover a lot of stories of people who have seen a lot of adversity. Does that change, or how does that influence how you coach?
Yeah, I think I draw a lot of inspiration from those stories. We create our podcast in April of 2020 um, as a way to tell these stories that we can't often do in print. It doesn't work as well for that medium. And the podcast that was released today is a prime example. Um, I have 3 hosts who are all volunteer. Well, they get paid, but they are American Legion members, so they're volunteers in that way. Um, and they interviewed a former Navy corpsman, served 2 tours in Iraq, and I won't spoil it for those who want to listen, but he had these incredible personal connections with 2 of the hosts that they discovered literally during the taping. And one of our hosts is also a Navy corpsman, so that was uh, you know by chance in a way, but it was really powerful. And our guest Shannon Book, who has struggled with some post-service trauma like others have,
Mhm.
he has found his path through music, and music has always been a thread through his life. And it was just so inspiring to um, learn about him and invite him on the podcast and to hear his story as he told it. It does give that sense of being able to do hard things. And I think that's why for a lot of us, we have found that in running. It's also the mental clarity we get. Shannon gets it through his music. People listening to this podcast probably get it through running and for chasing their big goals.
Have you coached a lot of vets?
Um, let's see. You are obviously one. Um, I wouldn't say a lot, but there have been others. Um, and I think that there's others who might also be inspired to run because of something else, perhaps an addiction that they are still working through, um, potentially weight loss, wanting to get in shape, these kinds of things, or just other things that may be related to mental health. I mean, I think that's something that brings a lot of runners, especially ultra runners, into running, is finding that escape, that peace that comes with whether it's a solo run at 0 dark 30 or it's enjoying the trails and the quietness in nature. There's a lot of things that, a run in anywhere really, but especially in those types of serene environments can really, um, help out a person who needs that.
Well said. And I think a lot of my ultra running compatriots may not be vets, but there's so many people who have, me included, who suffered from some kind of or dealt with some kind of an addiction, from alcohol to drugs to whatever. And I think it's one of my earlier, one of the first times I talked to a guy who ran a lot of 200s, made a joke, and he said, "Oh, it's not my joke," but he said, I wrote it down. He said, "Ultra running is like crack, but you get to keep your teeth." I think that's what he said, something like that. And I think that's probably pretty true. And I love, it's nice to, it's a nice mind reset. I think that's why I like the trails more than the streets, I suppose. Cause
Mhm.
when I go out and run on the trails, I don't have any music. I don't listen to anything when I'm out on the streets. I do. I listen to all kinds of stuff if I'm running on the asphalt on the street, but in the trails, it's a different experience for
Yeah,
me.
it is. I agree.
You've had, I think, I don't want to say this wrong, I think you've had 500-mile finishes
Mhm.
and a lot of other runs. So walk me through. What's one of your 100s that taught you the most? Not necessarily your best race, whatever that is, but one that changed about the way you think about how that distance and what that distance demands.
Mm-hmm. I think that I've learned something from all my hundreds for sure. Probably all my ultras too. I finished 5. I DNF'd 1, and there was another that I dropped from 100 to 50 on a rough day, and that was within the race rules. So it for the official records, it counts as a 50-mile finish, but the intent was to do 100 that day. That was Burning River in 2022, I think. But to answer your question, it was Burning River 2 years after that. That is the one where I probably learned the most. You were there. And it was, so Burning River's in Ohio in July. It is heat of the summer. It is an out and back race, a mix of dirt trails and paved trails. There's good crew access where I was able to see you guys. I think the first time wasn't until 26 or so, but it was pretty consistent after that. And so that was a brutally hot day. There was also rainstorms that came across.
Ready?
It was also the first time that I ever got sick at a race, and did so repeatedly. And so I remember I had a 3-person crew there, including Michael, who is literally a medical doctor. And I remember at the halfway point where, again, this is where I stopped 2 years previously. I had already got to the point where I couldn't keep anything down. And in my head, I was thinking, this is going to be another 50-mile finish, because it was raining at that time too when I stopped. And I had a decent first half of the 100 time-wise.
Mhm.
But I was just sitting in the chair, and you guys were doing amazing, changing my shoes. And I also got the first blister I'd ever gotten too, because I use squirrel's nut butter, and anywhere I've ever put SNB, never gotten a blister. I did not put any on my heel, and that's where this blister appeared.
Oh,
So I was at an incredibly low point, couldn't eat, had a blister, awful weather, and I just said something about like, I just don't think it's going to happen today. And Michael, the medical doctor, said there is no medical reason why you should stop. And I thought, damn it, he's right. And listened to the doctor. And so soon after that, got up, and he was my pacer at that point. And so we trudged on, and I was running with Chad at the end, another veteran. And it became clear that I was going to finish. It was a death march, getting sick throughout the second half. And when we got back close to town, we got off the trail, we were in a neighborhood. For the first time in hours, I ran that last half a mile or 3/4, whatever it was, hard, past a bunch of people at the end, and crossed the finish line, finished the race, got my buckle. And then later we learned that in the 19-year history of the race at that point, it was the lowest finishers rate ever at only 43%. So what did that teach me? It taught me to trust your crew, trust the doctor who said, basically, you're not quitting, and to just put your head down and just keep going. And, even with, and I think it was a 30-hour cutoff. That was a golden hour finish. And so I finished at 29, whatever it was. But it was something where I just put my head down, and knowing that, I could walk a great deal of that second half, because that's literally all I could muster up the energy to do. But got it done. So just, trusting the crew, letting them be your brain, and then just continuing to move forward.
It was quite impressive to see you come all the way through. You had previously worked or worked with, or Michael and Chad had previously crewed you.
Mm-hmm.
And my own experience was, it's still new, familiar, would never paced, right? I just was happy to jump, logistically get from one place to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't in my relationship with you. So we'll talk about coach athlete too. So my relationship with you is like, you're always on spot on doing what you do. I see how you work out. I see what workouts I'm going to do. And that makes me feel good. But when you see the coach coming through and they don't have a gauge, like, is he okay? Is he not okay? It's hard to kind of tell. And so it's really important, I think, and you probably suggested this to me, before you do any long races, volunteer. Volunteer to the race is one thing, but crew with someone. Do some crew service for people. So it gives you a different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember later, Michael, the doctor, repeating that story that he said, there is no reason why, there's no medical reason for you to stop. And that's a powerful sentence, right? And so for you, as you just relayed to us, that, you thought about it and you're like, damn, that's a true statement. I got to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was right. He was right. Um, it's amazing what the human body can do on almost no calories for over 14 hours, or probably closer to 16. And, again, I talked about teams earlier. That was a team effort, because you guys were the ones who kept me going, kept me in as positive spirits as possible. Tried to get me to eat, tried to get me to drink, um, kept encouraging me throughout the way. And I would not have done it if you guys weren't there.
I could tell you said it then and you're repeating it now. And I think when I talk to the guys, it feels that way. I really got the opportunity to sense, this is ultra community is not just about celebrating and cheering everyone on. It really is a team effort, and everybody needs it. Everybody needs that kind of support. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Let's talk about the coach and athlete relationship. How about that? You've coached
Yeah.
runners on every level, across every level. And what do most amateur runners, or most people that you encounter, what do they misunderstand the most, I guess, about the coach athlete, what a coach athlete relationship really is?
That's a good question. I think that, I don't know if it's most, but I think a common thread is, for some, they want the coach to um, use their skill set to create the plan, but a lot of times the runners want to be able to adjust the plan. Like, they'll see in the training plan, the workouts, the rest days, the cross training days, these things, and then be like, oh, it's raining out. I think I'm going to do core today and move my run to tomorrow. And I think that there is a balance there, where life happens. I mean, it could be something where had to work late, kid got sick, whatever it is. And there are certainly times when I've even made a pivot and I've been like, I'm going to switch these days. Um, So I think there is room for that with the athlete. But I encourage mine to let me know, and especially ahead of time, so I can do the plan around it. Because it's not a matter of, here's what I need to do for 7 days. If I get to Sunday and I do all these things, I'm good. There's more of a science behind it, and also building in enough recovery time. If I give you 4 days a week to run, and stuff happens early in the week, and then you end up running, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that may not be the best thing for you, especially if you're an injury prone runner, or you end up doing harder workouts back to back without recovery in between. So it's being able to communicate your needs as a parent, as a caregiver, as a employee, as a volunteer, at your local, whatever it is. I can work around just about anything. I had a pilot, and a pilot's schedule, as we know, is fairly crazy. He would put in his plan, literally, flying to Miami. I have 2 days off in Miami, so I can run here, and then I have a red eye to Los Angeles, so I can't run today. There was like no month that was the same for him, and so we worked around that, and he was great about letting me know where he was, and um, what he could realistically do. And of course, sometimes, just like we do as passengers, he got delayed, or he had to shift on a dime. So I think just, understanding that plan is flexible, based on the runner's needs, but continue to, work with a coach and say, hey, I something came up, I want to switch these two. And, I understand that if it's, uh, Wednesday morning and you're supposed to do, 6 miles or whatever, and an unexpected lightning storm came through, you don't need to text me at 6 a.m. If you want to jump on the stationary bike instead of running outside in a nasty storm, totally fine. But allowing the coach to kind of help navigate some of these other things, and not just either being too regimented and stick to the plan no matter what, or freelancing a bit that may not be in your best interest as an athlete.
As you've come up in this sport as an athlete and as a coach, let's say in the last 10 years or so, um, the sheer amount of interest in running, and the amount of interest in trail running, and then the amount of interest in ultra running has exploded. And in conjunction with that, the amount of information, disinformation, misinformation, wackadoo information, good information, we're hit with all of that at once. So how do you guide your athletes to have a baseline understanding of of how it works to work with a running coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, one thing that, as coaches, that is a new challenge for us is the advancements of AI. And, some runners might want to say, I'm going to do a 50-mile race. So I'm going to ask, ChatGPT, how can you build me a training plan for a 50-mile race? And yes, it can. Is it the right training plan for your individual needs? I'm going to say not so much. It's going to, you know, be the consensus builder it is, and fly through all the information it can find in a few minutes, and regurgitate a plan that will have elements of a decent training plan, but it doesn't account for the athlete's previous experience, their fitness level, any injury history. And that just because we can do something, it doesn't mean we should do something.
Amen to
So
that. That's true.
so I think that, what does a coach bring? I mean, I can't speak for all coaches, but beyond my own running and my own coaching and working with dozens of athletes over the years, I'm a student of the sport. I'm a lifelong learner. So I do a lot of reading. My phone is full of podcasts that relate to running and fitness and health. Um, and it's also just being able to be on top of, the latest trends. Protein is certainly among those. And the carb fueling that we've seen in the past 2 to 3 years of how that is such a game changer for the elite athletes. But also understanding that the carb loading that's 100 grams plus per hour that helped an elite athlete go from, maybe a top 10 finish to the podium or winning a big race. They are a special breed. Largely they're runners who've been doing it since high school or college or before, or maybe they transitioned from fitness they developed as a soccer player at an elite level, or there's others like Michael Wardian who played lacrosse. They have already a steady base, whatever their previous sport was. So, they are starting out at a higher level of fitness. So that 100 grams of carbs an hour that they're getting in will definitely be a boost for them. And, a middle of the packer, a back of the packer can still get a benefit from increasing their carbs, I would say. I've seen it in my athletes. I've seen it in myself. Um, so it's using, what I glean from, what I read, what I listen to on podcasts, and also what my athletes have done. I can see the benefits. I think he's like you. I think he's early 60s, and I trained him for a marathon that he had actually done previously last year. And one thing we changed was increasing his carbs. And I think he PR'd at it. I can't swear to that for sure, but I know that he did awesome at his marathon last November, and that was among the changes that we made. So you know, it's it's kind of being a student of the sport um, and taking that information and applying it as best as it fits and is tailored to that individual athlete.
I think, yeah, anybody who didn't do that or anybody who would just sound like a machine, then the athlete might say, well, he might as well just use a machine, like, right? So I've been with you for years now. So you were always vegan or mostly plant-based. Let me say that right. Mostly plant-based. And I switched January last year, just I'm not Tim Ferriss, but human guinea pig. I embrace like, okay, if I'm going to do a change, let's try it like this and see how it goes. And
Mhm.
I was shocked and surprised, and I love that it just has so much more energy. So it was a great plan, great switch. I was only able to do that though, Henry, because I saw you and I saw how you were doing. I'm like, oh, look at this guy, he can do it. I'm gonna give it a go. And a lot of ultra runners are vegan, and you see it
Mhm.
on social media. So it wasn't a hard step to take. You train using using a spreadsheet, and that you can update and change. And I think it took me a minute to really understand the power of a spreadsheet versus a data tool where you check the box or some app that do a thing. And I have apps, and we have Strava, and I have Training Peaks
Mhm.
and all the things. But there's something about a shared spreadsheet with you're looking at your spreadsheet except you and the coach. And so I really appreciate how you structured those things. And after all these years too, you never pushed to do any particular thing. And there was some strength training that you'd had on my spreadsheet for years, literally. And I would, in my head, it was like, yes, 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 it's important. But if it was the first thing, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, I did push-ups and I did the thing. But in my head, it didn't register to me its importance until I didn't have the kind of performance that I was expecting out of myself. And so, that kind of woke me up, and I look back like, well, Henry's been saying exactly the same way. You're consistent. It's not like he shifted gears and said, hey, now you got to do the blah, 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 blah. You really never did that. You always had these pieces. But once I started to really embrace every aspect of on the spreadsheet and started to do it religiously, that it's not an afterthought and it's a part of the workout for sure. Once I embraced that, I started to see changes, and I was shocked. And, I feel a little bit like a Homer Simpson, duh, but that's kind of what it felt like. So thank you. Thank you for that. You're in your 50s right now, so you're not necessarily wearing a badge that says you're a runner over 60 just yet, but you're barreling towards that. So you've been coaching people who are definitely 60, right? Or definitely in that age group. And
Yeah.
I only started the podcast with the word 60 in it because I was over 60 already. I was like, oh, okay, wait, what? There's something here. Maybe there's something here. What do you think is waiting for you on the other side of 60? And does coaching runners who are already there change your own expectations of yourself as an athlete?
So, you actually don't know this, so this will be a little bit of breaking news. Um, so I started playing pickleball a month or so ago,
Okay.
and and it's fun. I was doing fairly well at it, playing once or twice a week through some elementary classes, beginner level. Unfortunately, that led to an adductor injury, so I have now I've been dealing with that, but I think also related is a small hernia that was formally diagnosed. Today is the 21st of April, so it was actually yesterday. So I've been pretty much on the shelf, and taking care of those things, and in a period of where I can still bike. So I've been on my stationary bike and going outside as well too. So I'm doing what I can to keep up my fitness level on the bike. And at some point I'll excuse me, at some point I'll need to hopefully soon get that hernia taken care of. It I think it'll be the easier of the two options, the surgery. So hopefully that'll only mean, you know, a week, 10 days maybe, completely off of running, in addition to what I've already been doing. So that also has obviously led me to think, um, you know, I'm probably your youngest guest given your theme of the show, but not by that much because I am 58. So maybe you'll have me back in a couple of years too. But what is the other side of 60 look for me? One thing I had been thinking about even before the pickleball related injuries is, at I will slow down. We all slow down at some point. I am still going to chase big goals once I get healthy again. Once I get to the point where, I definitely am slowing down. I think my my goals are going to be my bigger goals are going to be more based on experiences and yeah, on experiences. And my overarching number one bucket list must do is Western States. And I think I have 16 tickets for the drawing this year. I have I already have my qualifier completed. Fortunately, so I don't have to try to worry about that as well with recovery. So that is if I get in before 60, that's even better, but that's still going to be the primary goal. And the one I've been thinking about more lately is running a marathon or longer in every state. I'm at around 16 or 17 now. And so I think that's something where, um, I can knock off a couple, here and there every year. And then once I do hit that slowdown point and I just want to go out and experience, I've been to 48 states. So it's a great excuse to also knock off the last two as well in that quest. So I think that's what it'll look like. It'll still be a chance to explore and run in new places. And maybe even, some of those who chase the 50 states goal go after, there's a couple of race companies who do like multiple ones over the course of, a week, say, where they
Right.
hit, X number of states, like back to back to back to back. Um, I've already looked at some of those. And so there's some opportunities to knock off, you know, 2, 3, or 4 within a few days. And, being able to keep my fitness level at that level where I can, still do that and still explore and have fun and, knock off some states that way. And, I'll probably also find some cool ultras to do that would also help, knock off those remaining states as well.
That's a good map. That's a good map. And I think it would be so much fun to do back to back, do 5 marathons in a row or whatever it is. I think that'd be fun. Well, thank you for all that, for giving us context. And I agree. Thank you for saying yes to this too, because before I was going to toe the line at my first 100-mile race at Leona Divide,
Mhm.
I thought it would be a really good idea to invite you on and let you be here when I'm doing my 30th episode of this podcast, and come what may. Right. And so that's right. I'm really interested in and excited that you're here. So let me see if I can contextualize this, if I may, right? Turning into movement two. This was shifting the gear a little bit about what I've been doing and how you've helped me over time. Um, so let's put something on the table that I think contextualizes everything. So, Henry, my medical history: 2 major ischemic strokes in consecutive years, my early 50s. It was 51 and 52, full recovery. And then April of 2024, I got through some 50Ks, and you helped me with a lot of my training. I ran New York in 2022 after training on treadmills. And I think after you started the podcast, we didn't really connect until it is in COVID. So I think the first thing I heard about was the podcast itself, Tango Alpha Lima, and then realized that you were involved in it. And so we connected once I learned you were a runner, and very fascinating. So thank you for that. That's a little bit of that context. Then you'll remember 2024, April, by this point had run 50Ks and things. And you also helped get me through April of 2023 when I did the tough ruck. So I donned all my
Mhm.
old military gear, carried a 42-pound rucksack. The day before Marathon Monday in Boston was the only way I could get a Boston medal, is because the Boston Athletic Association hands out the first 1,000 medals each year of the Boston Marathon. And boy, this year would have been a good one, right? So it's the exact Boston medal, but they give them to the first 1,000, or to the 1,000 participants of the tough ruck the day before. So you coached me through that in 2023. We get to April 2024, and I'm volunteering at Leona Divide, the 92-mile aid station or 42-mile aid station, depending if you were doing the 50-mile or the 100-miler. And I watched a guy in his 60s come through that aid station, and he was still running. And in that moment, something shifted in me, right? So this is post strokes and running, and didn't have anything to prove necessarily, but I saw this guy running a 100-mile race. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I really thought, what is happening? And I called you the next day, I think it was the very next day, and I said, Henry, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this 100 miles. I'm not done. I'm doing a 100-mile race. And without skipping a beat, barely a breath happened after I said, that's what I'm going to do. And you're like, oh, that's a good idea. You should do that. But how about first we just get you to run a 50-miler and see how it goes from there. And so that was the first. You'd been coaching me for a minute, but that was the first thing you said right out of the gate. So not like I'm putting you on the spot or anything, but knowing what you knew about me. And when I say Mr. Hyper Optimist, like, okay, I'm going to do 100 miles. Do you remember that conversation? And do you remember telling me, okay, sure, we can do 100 miles, but first do 50 miler? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And we had known each other a little bit before then. So I knew that, you were able to do, I mean, the Boston Ruck is not easy. It's, certainly, different than the marathon itself. And, hearing your voice and your passion for the 100-mile idea, I thought, yeah, I want to amplify this, but I also want to do it smartly, so that, we can get Mark to that finish line. And being able to learn from shorter races. I mean, we learn from all races, but being able to learn from shorter races as we approach that goal, is definitely something that, I thought was important to lay that out at that point, but also, to be encouraging, because I know that you can finish a 100-miler. And so that's something where, um, this is a journey, and we can certainly talk more about Leona Divide, but the journey's not done. And I still believe that you can and you will finish a 100-miler.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Thank you. Nice to hear that. That's good. That I wasn't even expecting that just yet, but hell yeah. Okay, good. That's good. We're clear. Check that box. We know for sure. What about this one? I've never been able to ask this because nobody knows. There's nobody that knows what I've done or anything except you. Really, like you have more depth and context than I do. But in that moment, how much, if anything, of your own understanding of my medical history, of the stroke history, do you sense that did you ever feel like you were pulling punches or had to treat me with kid gloves? Because, nobody wants to be a coach that says, yeah, go out there and do it. And, watch your person try to drop dead or whatever. Not making light of this, but I guess I am. I guess I do live with that. But was that ever a role? Did ever play a part in your thinking, structuring the races, structuring the things I've done?
Yeah, I think that was actually once we formally launched the coaching, or about the time we were talking about it, that was a question. Like, I want to make sure that you were medically cleared to do this. And you confirmed that your doctor had said, yeah, you're good to go, man. Um, and, certainly we started out, gradually, slowly building up. And part of that was just to make sure that you were able to handle this before we got into bigger stuff. And, I think that the health changes you've made since those strokes, and just the fitness you've built, are certainly showing that you are on the right path. But yeah, it was, obviously a huge consideration. It's similar to someone who may have had, a I don't know, a calf injury or plantar fasciitis, or, something like that. It's more serious, of course, because, we want to be very, very careful with the ticker. Um, but it's the same, knowing that injury history, that medical history definitely plays into, every single training plan I'm going to prescribe.
Okay. I think you've helped me. Thank you for that, Henry. Makes sense. Sometimes after people hear me or hear my story, or sometimes they call me out on it on these episodes, I keep saying it, I don't bring it up, but then they say you bring it up every time. So I'm still working dealing with that because some people though say, Mark, don't rush past the strokes. I don't care how many episodes you do, don't rush past them. Let it sink for a second. Especially because, and these are people who must have actually listened to me or actually talked to me, like, because these strokes were ischemic strokes, undetermined source. They don't know really what caused them. And they can't tell you how to prevent them. And they can't tell you that it's never going to happen again. So it's like the least amount of certainty that you can possibly have about it. And so I think what's been great working with you is that you constantly asking, that spreadsheet is like, it's this big box, fill in. What's the actual workout? What's the reaction to that workout? And then what's your life? What's going on in life? And there's a box there. And every time you work out, you have an opportunity to, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what I feel. And I think that kind of transparency has allowed me to just focus on, I think, things that really matter. So when something weird comes up, I can say it, right away. I'm pretty sure we were working together. I don't remember what it was about, but I went back into the gym to do some strength training, and all of a sudden I got these weird headaches that I'd never really had before. Went back to the neurologist, went to the cardiologist, went to you, and we were like, we're relying on a team, like you started. And this particular team just had a neurologist and a cardiologist and a blood work guy, and so different elements of a team, but still it was a team nonetheless. Before I go further, I want to make sure I really frame this properly to the next step. And the next step is who picked the races. So just to be crystal clear, anybody watching and listening to this, Henry's amazing, cool as a cucumber, right? You can tell. But he's got real experience. And I want to be crystal clear that Henry did not pick my races, right? Each time I had an idea in my head, Henry, I think I want to do this thing. For the Leona 100, he said, okay, do it. But let's build there. Let's work to get there. Okay, no problem. So every time I've said I want to do a race, he's like, okay, let's see. When is it? How big is it? And he looks at the elevation profile and looks at my own fitness. He's okay. And then he's built training sessions to get me to those races. And I think I wanted to say that out loud because it changes how we're going to analyze or talk about the DNF, did not finish, right? That's just a statement of fact. Person did not finish. But we turn it into, as runners, we turn it into a negative thing. We turn it into failure. We turn it into something that's bad. Certainly we turn it into something we want to avoid. And I think part of my objective, now that I'm starting to have quite a bit of experience with DNFs, is that I decided this is something else. We got to reframe how we think of this. So it's data, not failure. So you didn't tell me to run my Red Rock 100K in November of 2025. You didn't tell me to go do the Sean O'Brien 100K in January, though you knew that you did help me train for and successfully complete the Sean O'Brien 50K the year before. You coached me through Leona Divide. I took your advice, and last year, by 2025, I was able to do the Leona Divide 50-mile race. I finished it. It was just such a great, all these successes we've had, and we've been able to celebrate them. And I'm very, very excited about that. So now that I've said that out loud, I want to look at my own record kind of honestly with your help. And I'm trying to figure out in a way how much of what might have gone, I don't want to say went wrong, but how much went in a direction I wasn't anticipating. How much of it is a training problem? And now that you have so much context on me, how much of it is an athlete who keeps choosing races at the very edge of what he's demonstrated that he can do?
Well, I think one thing I would say is that your goal for that 100K was to run 62 miles for your 62nd birthday. And you did that.
Wow. We did it. We did it. I ran my age in miles, 62, did a 100K. Thanks to my friend Bonnie, pacer, crew chief, magician out there. But I did not finish the Red Rock Canyons Ultra 100K.
You just didn't do the 62 miles within the confines of the race course. You went off course. You ended up with a official race DNF, but you went out and you finished 62 miles on your own. So, this is, so you achieved your goal. Your goal is to run 62 miles. You didn't get a shiny buckle or medal at the end of it, but you did it. You ran 62 miles at age 62. And that is fucking amazing. So good on you for that. So I think that, Leona Divide, like we were talking about before, that is an epic graduate level 100-miler. There are no easy 100-milers. It's a long time, even for the elite athletes who can knock those off in 13, 14 hours. It's a significant distance. So I think that, we run, like I was saying earlier, for the experiences and for the stories we tell. Telling your story about, yeah, I ran 62 miles, to celebrate my 62nd birthday, but it really was, some of it was during a race and some of it was after. And so, that's why we do these things. And we also do them so that we are better humans and we are more fit and that we celebrate the community. You have volunteered, you have crewed, you've stayed after for a race, and I think you helped park cars or something.
Sure.
I know you've done stuff like that. You are getting the whole experience, and that's awesome. And as far as the DNF at Leona, that's something that, we can talk about the why. It's something that I think your fitness has improved greatly since we started. You've proven you can do a 50K, a 50 miler, the 100K. It's a process. I had done, I would say 4 or 5 50 milers or 100Ks before I even attempted a 100 miler. And that 100 miler is pancake flat.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I take that back. My first 100 miler was Rio del Lago. That was not pancake flat.
Right.
That was a decent. It's a good 100 miler for a first timer. I've recommended it to others. So, that was something where I had chopped off more of the kind of mid-range ultras, and I hadn't gone overnight yet. That's a whole new experience, of course. But I had enough under my belt where I felt confident. I had another good team with me and got it done. And I think that would be a good approach too, to keep, knock off some of these, these hard ultras, but more in the 50 mile, 100K range, and then learn from those, and then, attack a 100 miler again. Your fitness is definitely there. We've more recently worked on speed because we knew that that would be something to work on. And I've already seen progress there. That probably didn't occur soon enough to make a difference at Leona, but I think we've landed on something. And I think that, as we get back into training, we'll keep working on that cadence, and then the speed will come from that. I think that you, like me and a lot of other runners, try to do all the things, and as we get older, there is the fact that we need more rest and recovery time. Um, and I think that's something that I personally need to do a better job with in getting enough proper rest. And I think that is also something I would encourage you to focus on. And I know you've shared some sleep data with me, getting 8 hours and that kind of thing, which is great. But I think that there's also a lot of late nights that are work related for you. And I think that does play a role in your training for sure. So I think that, that's obviously some of that can't be helped when work calls or family obligations call. That's totally understood. But I think that also, you know, for my part, maybe there needs to be more flexibility in that plan, and um, coming up with alternatives if if you're good to go on this day, then it's an 8 miler with this amount of speed work. And then alternatively, if you need, if you don't have that much time, then, knock it down to 6 with a different set of speed work. And that's something that, to a certain degree, um, I think is a good mix for that athlete. You are a strong communicator, so I feel like that's something that, we can easily manage through that spreadsheet. So um, I think there is definitely some work we can do. Continuing to work on that cadence to get you faster, and then building in ways to make sure you're getting enough rest and recovery, and then plowing forward.
It's nice to have you. Thank you for that. It's nice to have you kind of explain kind of how we actually are doing it. Um, Couple things. Number one, I couldn't even start to do this, I don't think, until my girls, in a way, my kids are kind of out of the house. I didn't
Mhm.
put together how clearly that connects, but it really did. Once that was available, then I can have a lot and run my own business, so I can really, my time is my own, and I really
Mhm.
appreciate that as I see other people, struggling with kids and family, and I know, I mean, I stopped golfing when I had kids because I just didn't want. I wanted to give the kids everything, all the things. So I think it's great, and for me, I really appreciate the discipline offered. But it's such a light touch. Your spreadsheet is a light touch. It's specific about what needs to be done, but that's it. We're grown ass humans. We can do, follow the rules or whatever. Just figure out how to do it. And I really love completing the workout exactly as it's spelled out. And I feel satisfied with it. And
Mhm.
as I said earlier, like when I started to really do the strength training, I could immediately started to have an effect. Speed workout as well. Although I only recently, even there's only been a handful of months where I appreciated what's a 4 by 20 second sprint? Like, is it really going to do that much? Yeah, it is. It is. But when I started to actually time them, so that was
Mhm.
one thing I was so worried about, like figuring out how to structure it in Training Peaks and the watch. And so I could do that. But I think when I didn't have it structured in Training Peaks, I did those things and I did the 4 by 20s, but only when I started to actually time myself each one of those 20 sections and write it down. It was only when I wrote it down on the spreadsheet so you could see it that I started to see the progress myself. And for years, right, I haven't had that. But you gave the same workouts, the 4x30, and I checked the box because I did them. But you go back now 10 months earlier and you look at it and like, well, okay, it says I did it. I'm sure I did, but boy, is it valuable to have the data.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for your assessment of Nevada. You were 100% right. I had a pacer. I never had a pacer before. And my friend flew out he was in Europe at the time. He flew out, good guy, friend, long time. He flew out to pace me in the middle of the night. And I kind of got lost out there. And he's a Boy Scout leader guy. So this guy parks on the side of the road, on the side of the freeway. He looked at the map, figured out where he thought I was, had some high beam flashlights. He talked to the race director and said, my guy's out there. I'm going to go find him. The race director like, you can't go. He's like, yeah. And the race director says, like, where? And my guy says, I'm going to park right here. And he said, okay, but there's concertina wire. You're going to have to jump over the barbed wire. My guy's like, don't worry about it. Can I do it? And the race director is like, go ahead, man. You can, sure. So almost like Missouri, I want to show you how I do it. So my guy jumps over the fence, finds me in the middle of the night, triangulates, and it was the most, I can't even fathom this. Now, Henry, had I just not got lost and just did the race, got my medal, it'd have been great. I would have ran my age of miles, no question. But the fact that my guy came out there and found me, I'm like, what the fuck? What is happening? And at that time, I was hustling. I wasn't dying. There was no death marching going on here, at least not in my head, right? Running. So when he found me, the amount of energy you get, I got. When I saw him, it's like meeting your pacer or seeing your crew. You're running into the aid station at Burning River. It was nasty out there. It's Ohio. It was hot and sticky and wet and gnarly. And here you are, it looked like, I remember seeing you at one point. I'm thinking, did he get pushed down in the grass with mud on him? Because as you came through, I'm like, where was this guy? Where was Henry? Because you're like, it's sweaty and it's wet and it's hot and all the nastiness. But the moment you come in, you can just tell the athlete is happy that their crew is coming. Like you were, no matter how gnarly you looked and how much you puked or whatever you did, you're like, okay, I'm here. Let's go. I need shoes, socks, da, da, da. So I had only experienced that, Henry, on the crew side. So when I got to see when Bonnie intersected with me, man, it just gave me the kind of energy. I was like, oh, let's go. Let's come on, man. I couldn't believe it. So it was only after that, about, I don't know, an hour or so later when I came up to one of the aid stations because I lost a bunch of time earlier in the day. And my buffer got smaller and smaller. So we get to this one aid station and we only had to cover 4 miles in 1 hour. So a 15-minute pace. And it looked easy enough, right? And my pacer's with me. We're like, okay, we can do it. Let's go. And sure enough, my pacer and I get out there and we get lost, both of us. We're like, what? But the experience of it is just fascinating because I knew for sure he knew the only reason he came out here was to help me run my age in miles, right? And I'm 62 at that time. So he comes out and he's like, we're going to do it. So we get a little lost. It didn't really kill us, though. It wasn't the loop getting lost in that little loop. It was, we got lost. Plus, I just couldn't get my ass moving at 15-minute miles at that point. I just couldn't. It just wasn't happening. It was like I was doing the motion, right? But even no matter how quickly you move your arms, if your feet are just walking like this, you're not going to or you're not going to be moving fast. So we get up there and the aid station, which was like this giant Winnebago, and like we were the last guys out there. And he said, no, it's over, man. I said, I know, but you know what? Can I just turn in my bib? Call the race director. I want to turn in my bib. No liability issues here. You've got the bib. I'm done. I just need to finish. And we're already in the middle of the desert. So the only other option was to help him pack up and jump in his Winnebago. I didn't want to do that. So we talked to the race director who had previously, right, talked to my guy who jumped the fence. And once the race director knew who it was who we were talking about, the race director was like, oh, go ahead, man, go for it, do it. Because at that point, he's like, couldn't believe that the dude even found me hours ago, right? So, yeah, we finished that. And the cutoff for that race was 22 hours. And I think we finished it in actually on our own path, because I got lost enough that by the time the aid station that cut me off, it was halfway, 32 miles, I think, or not even halfway. 32 miles. But I personally had already run more than 40 miles because I got lost and come back. And anyway, so we knew that. We just had to finish 20 more miles. Anyway, we did that. And I think we finished in like 22:15 or 22:20, 22:25, something. So the whole cutoff would have been 22, and I was still past that. So it's not like I made it in the time, but we did it. And it wasn't a ridiculous finish. It was a celebratory finish. Hell yeah. So just like you said in the spreadsheet, like it's going to be an epic, awesome night, day, whatever for the 100K. And you were right. It's the story we were able to tell, right? Every time I ever mention that, I'm going to get to say, my guy jumped over the Concertina wire with a flashlight and in the desert. That's what I love about ultra running. So that was fantastic. And we did that. You and I, again, I picked the races, but part of why the Red Rock Canyon 100K in November in the desert made sense was because the elevation, I think the elevation gain was only like 9 or 10,000 feet, I think. And Sean O'Brien is like 14,000 something. So we knew Sean O'Brien was going to be hard. And Kira Henninger, the race director of KH Races, she's the one that I found trail running because of her and the way she runs her races. So Leona and Sean O'Brien were important to me, and I'd already run the 50K. So you helped me get ready for the Sean O'Brien. And I get there and I start out, I thought I started out strong, but the sweeper, who's the last person that kind of follows along all the racers, make sure there's nobody, no one left behind, to make sure they're safe. But I don't even get too far ahead of myself in the beginning of the race, and the sweeper is like behind me, meaning I'm the last person on the loop. And hey, at first, I can't believe I'm going that slow. It doesn't feel like it. Okay, it's early on, not even 6 miles in. Beautiful sunrise. Guess what? Only one person behind me, but she's a sweeper. Let's go. And I read my watch a little bit, and sure enough, I hit that aid station 22 miles, just the first checkpoint again, and I'm too slow. I get pushed off. I'm pulled from the race. So that had never happened. So it's one thing if I'm lost. That's okay. I mean, I get that. I got to fix that. But this was something different because I'm pretty sure I was right on my pace and everything I trained for. And it was in that moment that I DNF'd that race that I thought about the concept of data, not failure. Because DNF, did not finish, is not judgment. It's just a fact. Did not finish. Okay. But I think as ultra runners, and finally, here's a question. Can you believe we've been talking this long? Thank you for your patience, my friend and coach. Yeah, Henry, you're awesome. But here's the thing. When I got to data, not failure, I'm thinking, if I'm going to assess what I've done so far, more information is better. And the more data we actually capture on a watch, on a whatever, is better. So talk to me a little bit about about DNFs and your philosophy of DNFs, how you help athletes through DNFs, and dive into it a little bit with me about the concept of viewing this every race really as data and not failure.
Yeah. I love the data, not failure. My first DNF was at the Zion 100K, and I went into it with an injury. 7 miles into it, I stepped wrong on a rock on the side that I was already hurting, and pain just shot right up my leg. And I knew I needed some athletic tape. None of the aid stations had them. And when I got to 26, I'm like, I can't see doing another 36 miles like this. I'm slowing down. It's not great to run when injured. And also I was worried about the nighttime because I knew at that point I would definitely be running longer at night than I would. And then I've already got one bum wheel, and that's going to also increase the odds that I might trip and have something worse to deal with. So I called it at 26. I think it's, injury DNFs. I, Having a DNF because of injury is many more times the better option than trying to finish with an injury.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it depends on what the injury is, but um, athletes who call it because of an injury, I there I can't argue with that at all. Um, so I so that one was the lesson learned on that one was have athletic tape in your backpack or in your vest that you're carrying.
Okay.
Uh, because I literally asked at 3 aid stations and they just didn't have them. So I was like, we were also going to come back through some of them. So I'm like, I'm not going to find what I need out here.
Yeah.
Um, so for my first DNF at, actually, since Burning River wasn't technically one, I DNF'd, but my 100 miler DNF was at Hennepin 100. It was the third time I was doing it. This time I was going to do it without a pacer. I had a one-person crew, and we basically had a miscommunication where he went to the wrong aid station, and um, it was at night. I was at mile 74, or I was at 68 or something like that. And he had gone on to 74. And I should have grabbed another layer the previous time I saw him. But I didn't. I was freezing, could not warm up. And by the time I saw him again at 74, my mind just went. And so I was cold. I was not a good place. And I just didn't think I could do basically a marathon, 26 miles to the finish.
Right.
Looking back, I could have and I should have. And that was a lesson in getting, improving my mental strength. I could have sat by that fire for an hour instead of just 15 minutes. Instead, it was in my head that I'm cold. I'm pissed because of why I'm cold. And I just could not get past that feeling where if I would have gotten up, if I would have gotten warm enough, gotten up and even started just walking again, um, that would have changed my race. But I was in a place where I just had a pity party and just didn't want to. And so the lesson there is, suck it up and do what you need to do. The clock was not going to run out, because there's a very generous time, and Hennepin is an incredibly flat race. I probably could have walked backwards and still beaten the time. I probably could have put 3 blankets on myself and walked backwards and still finished on time. So I think that was my biggest lesson from a DNF, is to be mentally stronger when shit happens. I didn't bring an extra jacket when I probably should have. And, it's not the first time a pacer and crew have ever, not connected at the right place.
Yeah.
And we have to be prepared for that. And, for my athletes, there's lots of different lessons. I think the mental part is definitely one of them. I've had athletes who just got to a place and were just like, yeah, I just don't want to go on. And so we work on that. I don't think I can't remember any where it was fitness. I think, the good thing about ultras is we're not running hard like a half marathon or even a marathon.
Right.
We have the fitness if we keep getting in calories, if we keep hydrating, if we take care of the little things, a pebble in our shoe, get rid of that before it becomes an issue. If we take care of all the little things, stay mentally strong, nutrition, hydration, that's the secret sauce.
You communicate that well. And I think the way you just explained it, like, I don't think there's a way to learn from that experience unless you have that experience. You can
Mhm.
tell me your story about being cold and just that, but unless you go through it, right? I think, and I can read enough stories and see enough videos and hear enough this and that, and I'm ready for it. But just because I've heard of it before doesn't mean when I get out there, something's not going to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
At Leona, I just finally did all a real deep dive about the data itself. And of the 100-mile races, I'd covered 66 miles of the course, unique miles of that 100-mile course. Over the last 20 months, I did six big recons, including the 50-mile run that I just did, race I did, and the 100-mile race attempt I did. So I covered
Mhm.
63 of those unique miles, 162 total miles on that course over the last number of 20 months, and thought I saw every piece of it, but I didn't. And in my head, I wanted this DNF to map. I wanted to map it to, the reason I fell apart was because I was on unfamiliar terrain. But guess what? The power of analytics were like, nope, Mark, it was like, little teeny bit you had you never ever run on before. So it wasn't that. I just didn't do what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it. And after the cutoff hit 9 hours, I passed that 9 hour mark just at about more than a marathon distance. And, but this happened, Henry, uh, after I knew I was out, and I'm still out on the race course. At that moment, all the things, I guess, in the last couple hours that I was like, it's just pain, no big deal, not a thing, who cares, all good. All those things I let my mind, I just let it be okay to have all that shit hit the fan. And I wish it
Mhm.
didn't, but that's what really happened. So I experienced for the first time ever, I believe, hyponatremia, which was I had the right amount of sodium. I'm certain of it, and it was hot out and all, but I drank too much. I diluted my sodium levels. I knew exactly how much I sweat. I took that precision sweat test, best thing ever, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I know how much I sweat. I know how much I'm supposed to be drinking when it's hot. It wasn't that hot out, but anyway, while I'm there, I believe I drank too much. How would I know that? But my hands swelled up like elephantitis hands. And I couldn't do squeeze, but while I was running, I didn't notice that. Only after my brain was like, "Well, you're out anyway." Then all of a sudden, boom, all the pain hits, and it was like an animated character that
Mhm.
when and I can see a cartoon where all of a sudden something happens and boom, and your hands get giant, and it was weird. But it also scared me a little bit because I got a headache and I didn't think it was stressed, although there's stress when you don't finish the race so early on. But all that thing happened. And what you just said was like you had to go through those things. So I guess I'm grateful to have that kind of experience because it wasn't even in a race setting. The race was over. But boy, did I really dial in again about, okay, what are my sodium levels? And anyway, that was
Mhm.
my non medical assessment was that, yeah, I was just drinking too much, diluted too much of the sodium that I maintained so well. And my feet were messed up. But I didn't notice any of it until I knew it was out of the race. So for better for worse, that's what happened. Okay, next one. Almost and as we kind of head toward the end here, um, and I don't think I'm putting off the best for the last or worst to last, but anyway, I'm going to get to it. I'm heading right to it. Man, I'm reluctant to do it, but I'm doing it. So Paul James Johnson invited me when he was a guest on the episode. During the episode, he said, "Mark, I know you signed up for Bigfoot next year, and that's great. Good for you. You're 62. You're going to run your first 100K, first 100-mile, and your 200-mile race. Great. 200's a very different beast." He's like, "You know what? Why don't you? I'm going to invite you. Why don't you come and pace me or pace me during my Cocodona 2026? I'm going for my fifth finish and I know how to do this. And I think it would really help you to be a student of the 200-mile distance." I'm like, okay, I'm in, man. I don't even have to give it a second thought. So I'm doing that. I am Cocodona's happening in a couple of days, and he's got me a very specific path, not the very end, but the second to last segment. It's, he's late in the race, so he's competent from my pace perspective. I'll be able to handle it out there really well and easy enough. So being inside of it, just like crewing you at your hundreds, it's very, very helpful. So in some ways, I'm not just a pacer at Cocodona, I'm definitely the student. So 2 months after that, I'm supposed to run the Bigfoot 200. That's 44,000 feet of gain. And here it is, Henry. It's okay. It's a safe space. Given everything we just talked about, one is at the right sequencing, and forget the destination trails policies for the moment, because you can't transfer and you can't do any of that. But is Bigfoot the right race? It's April of 2026. You know what just happened. I signed up in August. What do you think? How do we approach thinking about that even?
I mean, that is 4 months away. That is very aggressive. I mean, I've not looked at the cutoff times, so I think that's certainly one question to look at. It's a significant amount of gain for sure. I mean, I think that it would definitely be an epic adventure for sure. I think that your fitness level is definitely in a good place. You are definitely a student of nutrition, hydration, these things. It's something that I'm not going to tell you yes or no right now. But I think as you recover from Leona this past weekend, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at the cutoffs. Let's take a look at the elevation. Let's take a look at all these things. I think that there is something about the 200s that might work well for you, because very few people are like racing these. So the cutoffs might be more in line for someone like you, where, if you can just keep going at a steady clip, I think that would be good. A caution I would have is you've never gone an overnight race, and you're going to have probably 3, if not 4 of those all in a row. That's a lot of time to be moving at night, and also factoring in the sleep, and also how your body would react to like eating a full meal and then keep on going. So it's definitely uncharted territory for sure. But I think we need to do some more studying and then figure it out.
I really look forward to people hearing and seeing you in that answer, because it wasn't like it's a legitimate question, obviously, but I wasn't trying to get you to give me permission to do anything. But man, you are so you're articulate in a way that respects the athlete's desires, backed up by all the experience you have as an athlete and a coach, and knowing this particular athlete. So I don't mean to like meta examine what just happened, but what an answer, Henry. That was so fantastic. I've gone back and forth in the last, only been a couple of days since, Saturday. I woke up Sunday morning in a bed, and I had planned on, running through the dawn hours and Sunday and finishing at 2:00 in the afternoon, the 100 miles that I didn't get a chance to do. So I've talked to a lot of people about 200. Sleep is a real thing. 1,000 feet is no messing around. I have until May 31st to tell Destination Trails that I'm going to push it for a year. You pay a hefty penalty fee to do that, but it's possible. So in my head, I was going to I wanted to get an Airbnb in July, live in Washington State in July, run up the mountains all that time. And that's a nice plan, but it's kind of a fantasy. I don't really see, I don't think logistically I could pull it off. Um,
Mhm.
but you're right about the fitness level is right. And I think when I got pulled off of Leona, I thought, I just need to do more races. I only got 11 races on Ultra Sign Up, Henry. Only 11. That's barely nothing. And I'm working hard to make sure that my 4 big DNFs get posted because I think it tells a story, not just what you finished, what you were able to finish, but what did you start and you didn't finish. I think it's important to see that data. And I'm trying to learn from it myself. So thank you for the answer. You're a master. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out whatever the next one's going to be. Someone did suggest, Lion Caldwell suggested, who himself is, he's done at least one 100-mile race every year for the last 40 some years. If he gets through to 2029, he will be among the very rare, breathing rarefied air of the handful of runners who have done a 100-mile race for 50 years.
Wow.
That's a lot,
That's awesome.
right?
Yeah.
And he said to me, he said, I tell people all the time, sign up for a 48-hour race. That was what he said. And I said, okay, why? He said, because then 48 hours, you really can test yourself to figure out what you can do or what you feel like doing. Because you run overnight and but it does everything. He said, but for me also, I picked 48 hours because I need to run my 100 miles. He said, so I don't actually run for 48 hours. I run 100 miles. And I picked the 48 hour because I'm not interested in pushing myself to have to do it in 24. So I thought that was a really good idea. So I've learned a lot on the podcast to think about race selection and format. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. I looked at Kettle Moraine and I looked at your Burning River and all the races you've done. And I really have examined now more than ever about, what races to pick. And if you just wanted to finish 100 miles, I would pick one thing. If you wanted to, depending on what the goal
Mhm.
is. So thanks. I'm glad you're in my life as the coach. And it's very, very helpful. So yeah, we'll figure out what's happening in the next handful of weeks. All right, here's the closer for you, Henry. Thank you so much again for being here. For the older runners watching this, person who is 62, 65, 67,
Mhm.
who has had their own version of a hard year or whatever these last handful of months have been for me. I don't know if it's hard, but boy, I got a lot of opportunities to learn. Uh, and they're trying to figure out that they're done. Just like I thought I was done before the 2024 Leona Divide. So that's the person we're talking to. Um, what do you think? What would you want them to take away from this conversation between us?
Yeah, I think that, for whatever reason that somebody might think that they've reached the end, I think the question is more, are you done where you are now as a runner, or are you done as a runner? So, like I said earlier, we're all going to slow down at some point, right? It's inevitable. Um, so if someone has dropped off because of age and they can no longer hit their goal marathon time, or their whatever their time goal is, or they've fallen closer to the back of the pack, or whatever it is that's telling them, I think I'm done here. Let's reframe that. Maybe there's something else. Maybe this is an opportunity to try something new. Maybe it's a 5K. Maybe for a long distance athlete, they haven't done a 5K in a while. And, there's nothing wrong with a 5K. They have the both the state and the national senior games where they have, I think it's a 1 mile and a 5K, or maybe there's a 10K or something. They're shorter races, but looking for an opportunity to do something like that. There are track races for seniors. There might be something there, because even if you're slowing down, still have quite a bit of fitness. And, finding out, I would recommend trying to find something other than flopping on the couch or laying back in an easy chair. Because ideally, this person has spent a lot of time building up this fitness to realize it's lost. So, maybe that's playing pickleball. I would recommend being careful with your adductor, though. Um, or maybe it's doing a shorter race, like I mentioned. Maybe it's trying a new race. Maybe it's trying like a sprint triathlon and infusing yourself with something new that might be invigorating. And using your fitness to, try out something that's new.
Perfect, Henry. Thank you. Thank you. I think I point people in your direction. So thank you for being here today. Where can people find you, especially that person you were just talking to? Is the best place to go to Run Spirited? Let's talk about where we can find you.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. It's my honor to be on here. I enjoyed our conversation. My website is runspirited.com. You can also sign up for, I do a Monday motivation newsletter every week with links to stories both on my site and others of interest I find about coaching and nutrition and other things related to training and running. And I have spots open for anyone who might be looking for a coach. You can hit me up. I'm sure you'll put some stuff in the show notes. And on my website, there's a forum you can contact me. And happy to talk to anybody about running and those who are interested in coaching, help them achieve their awesome goals.
And you're doing it. Thank you, Henry. This has been fantastic. So good to see you. I really hope people, all they have to do is listen to you and hear you a little bit, and your vibe is clear and you listen. And boy, you just answer those questions sort of straight out of the gate. So thank you for the spreadsheet. Thank you for this, the encouragement. Thank you for so quickly telling me, yeah, do Leona 100, but first do the 50 miler. And everything I've accomplished and everything I've attempted to do, I've done it with your guidance. And I appreciate that. And it's good stuff. All the content you put out is solid and useful. And sometimes I feel like, wait, is he just writing this just for me? And then, of course, you're not. But man, it's so good. So thank you, Henry. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
My honor to be on this journey with you, and we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. Exactly. The podcast is over, but we're not done yet.